Hello, welcome to Vintage Cookbooks and Crafts. My name is Barbara and I have collected cookbooks for over 50 years and I've been slowly making recipes out of different books. And today I'm going to make two recipes out of this Alaskan cooking from the Anchorage Women's Club from 1961. The first printing was 1959, second printing 1960, and this is the third printing 1961. The first recipe I'm going to make is called cheese onion pie. And later I will make royal rhubarb cake. So let's start with the cheese onion pie. It calls for 1 1/4 cup of soda cracker crumbs and 1/2 cup of melted butter or margarine. Combine and put in a 9-inch pie pan. And I crumbed it turned out to be just 1 sleeve of saltine crackers. And I used my osterizer to crumb the crackers. I have put the crumbs in this bowl and now I am adding 1/2 cup of melted butter. It says combine and line a 9-inch greased pie pan. I just sprayed this pan and I'm going to, after I get this combined, press that into the bottom of this pie pan. When I first saw the title for this recipe, cheese onion pie, I thought a pastry crust, but no, this is a saltine cracker crust. I thought, well, that's interesting, let's try that recipe. I'm just pressing it down in the bottom and up the sides. Okay, next it says 2 cups of onions, and you fry slowly until golden brown or translucent, and 2 tablespoons of margarine place into the onions in the crust. And I have done that already. This was turned out to be 1 large onion. It didn't say to chop or slice the onions, so I kind of did a little in between. I divided the onion into quarters, and then I decided that wasn't small enough because it was a large onion. And so I cut that in a little bit smaller pieces, and then I sliced it. So they're little shreds rather than chopped or sliced. So it says to put that in the bottom. And then we'll go over to the stove and make the custard that goes on top of this. It's a cheese custard. To make the custard, we need 1 cup of scalded milk. And to scald means just to warm it, you don't boil it. And you just start to see it sticking a little bit on the bottom. And then I need to add 2 beaten eggs. It says add slowly, 2 beaten eggs. And then it says to add 1 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And it says combine slowly, add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and 1.5 cups of shredded cheddar, grated cheddar. And after the cheese melts in there, then I will pour it into the pie pan. I've noticed that when it asks for grated or shredded cheese, that the cheese you buy already shredded in the package has some kind of a coating on it so it doesn't gum up and stick together. And that takes longer to melt than if you bought it in the block and grated your own, shredded your own cheese. That seems to melt much faster. It's much smoother. And it's almost to the point where all the cheese is melted. And it's a little thicker than it was before. And then I'm going to pour it into the pie pan on top of the onions here. I'm going to put this pie drip pan on the shelf below the pie in case it boils over a little bit. So now it has to bake for 40 to 45 minutes. And then I will be back and show you the finished product. Now for the second recipe in this Alaskan cooking book, I am making royal rhubarb cake. It says arrange in a greased 9-inch pan. I just sprayed this. 2 cups of fresh rhubarb cut in 1/2-inch pieces or 1 box of frozen rhubarb. I have 2 cups of frozen rhubarb that I froze. Break them apart. So in here I have the 3/4 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of flour, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and I need 1 teaspoon of grated orange rind. So I only need 1 teaspoon. So we mix this up and then we sprinkle it over the rhubarb. We'll set this aside while in another bowl. In this bowl I have 1 cup of sifted flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons of double active baking powder, a half a teaspoon of salt, and I'm putting in one 1/4 cup of butter. It says to mix with a knife or pastry blender until mixture resembles cornmeal. And the butter is cold because it cuts in better if it's cold than if it's soft. Make sure I can feel and break up some of the bigger clumps that didn't cut. Now I'll cut some more. Now we have 1 beaten egg and 3 tablespoons of milk. And we mix that in here in the flour mixture. Okay, now we need to spread this over the top of the rhubarb mixture. It says mix in place on top of rhubarb mixture, spread with a spatula. And so I get it, this isn't exactly like a batter, so I'm going to spread this dough out a little bit so it'll be easier to spread out with the spatula. Looks more like a soft biscuit type dough. I ended up having to pat it a little bit to get the dough to spread because it was like a soft biscuit dough, not a cake batter, so it wasn't as easy to spread when it was trying to stick to the sugar that's on top of the rhubarb. So now I need to bake this for 25 minutes in a 350-degree oven. And then while this is baking, I need to mix 2 tablespoons of orange juice with 1 tablespoon of sugar. And after the 25 minutes, you pour that orange juice sugar mixture on top and bake it for another 15 minutes. So in this little bowl, I'm going to get 2 tablespoons of orange juice. And 1 tablespoon of sugar. So when the 25 minutes is up for the cake, I'll take it out pour this sugar, orange juice over the top and then put it back in the oven for 15 more minutes. So I'll see you then. The cheese onion pie and the royal rhubarb cake are out of the oven now. So I'm going to slice them and put them on the serving plates so you can see what the insides look like. This is the royal rhubarb cake, and it says to serve it upside down and then with cream. And this is the cheese onion pie with the saltine crust. This is a second pie I made, and this one I didn't melt the cheese into the custard sauce. I sprinkled it on top. You can see all the onion that's poking out. I think it's very good. It's rich, but good. I hope you will try these recipes. My family members really enjoyed them. I hope you will like and subscribe if you haven't already, and please share this video with your friends. Until next time, goodbye.